Hello, welcome to the Back Podcast, Australia's favourite gaming podcast, as voted on by us, the hosts of the Back Podcast, Australia's favourite gaming podcast. It's Monday, the 5th of September, 2022. I'm Nick Richardson, and today I'm joined by Peter Jerry Burns.
What?
And she's a cozy, sometimes chaotic variety streamer from Australia. It's Emmylou.
Hello.
Welcome, Emily, to the show. What a joy to have you here. You are a baker.
I am a baker. Thank you for having me, by the way.
It is a pleasure having you. You and I met through some streams that we've been doing over the last week, and you were very kind to take some information that I needed passed on to the higher ups, and you gave them that information. About pronunciations of aluminum and aluminium. So I thank you for that.
Your big head when you won Fall Guys.
How fucking good was that? My God. What a hero moment. But yeah, it is a joy to have you on. And we have mutual friends across the internet. And I got character references from all of them over the weekend. And all of them assured me that you were a wonderful person with strong opinions and you weren't crazy.
Well, I hope so. All Excellent. Good things, I hope.
But you are a baker as well, which I just learned 10 seconds before we went live. And I just want to thank you. And I mean this totally genuinely, because a lot of the time I think people have said that I often sound like I'm being sarcastic, but I mean this from the bottom of my heart. Thank you for making Australia better by providing us with custard tarts on a daily basis.
It's just, my service to the country.
Peter, if you could pick anything from a country bakery, what would you like?
From a country bakery?
Yeah, what you go to?
I'd probably go for a loaf. I don't only go to a bakery for a loaf. I don't go for
a bread loaf.
Yeah, I'm not into the sugar bread thing. So hook me up with your finest loaf of bread.
What's the finest loaf of bread you have there, Emily?
Probably sourdough. That's probably the fanciest.
Yeah, goddamn.
Give me it.
But besides baking, you are also a Twitch streamer. For people watching who don't know who you are, do you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, what you play, and what you do on the internet?
Well, the description that you gave, cozy, sometimes chaotic, that's probably the best way to describe me. It always starts off cozy, but then, as it always goes on Twitch, weird conversations happen, and then it gets chaotic. Okay. But I stream The Sims 4. That's my main game that I play. Recently, we've been doing a lot of Cult of the Lamb, which has been super fun. It's such a good game. So good. And then The Last of Us Part 1, Minecraft, Stardew Valley, a whole bunch of stuff.
Awesome. Well, we are delighted to have you here, and I think we should move on with the news because, Peter Jerry, the news is not going to break itself. Up is presented by one of our top Stitch patrons and the best evil person we know, Fast Startup on PC. If you have that, you should turn it off, because I realized over the weekend my PC wouldn't shut down. I would click shutdown, it would go through the shutdown process, and then it would immediately just turn back on and boot me back to the login screen. And Twitch thankfully helped me and said it was Fast Startup, which sucks. And you should turn it off. Sorry, I mean Evil Spy Boy. Evil Spy Boy is the best evil person we know. Get your exclamation mark Spy Boys out in the chat, because thanks to his generous Patreon support, Evil Spy Boy is bringing you the backup, and he's hoping you bring the generosity to Food Bank Australia. Food Bank provides regular breakfast to more than 132,000 students at schools across the country. And on top of this, more than 200,000 kids seek food relief from their charities every single month. Donate at foodbank.org.au. There is a link in Nightbot for that. And head to tasteofmultifish.com for more information about Evil Spy Boy's proclivities. All right, let's back up and look at the biggest stories of the week, as voted on by us, the host of the Backup, where we back up and look at the biggest stories of the week. And Emily, you're our guest, so please start us off with a story that made you back up and say, hey, that's a pretty big story.
Well, I saw that Supermassive, who is the game developers for The Quarry and also Until Dawn, they announced that they're starting development on their newest title. It's got no name, doesn't even have a date. They said 2025.
Of them.
I know, it's just, we're making a game. That's it. 2025, 2026, so fair way away. But they said same sort of horror, which I like. I really like The Quarry. It was a really good game. I don't know if you guys played it or not.
Sure did.
Yeah,
I really liked it. And yeah, they said that the main thing that they are worried about is that the Quarry was a lot longer than Until Dawn. And they want to make a game similar to the Quarry. And they're worried about people not finding the characters interesting and just wanting the horror. But yeah, I want to know what you guys think. Do you guys like the teen aspect of the Quarry, or did you guys find it like too cheesy? Because I really liked it. I thought it was kind of funny to have horror mixed in with just like the cheesiness of the teen drama. Yeah, what did you guys think?
Yeah, I think for me, like it's hard to top Until Dawn. Character and pacing all kind of came together, but I think there's also something special about it being the first big Supermassive game that we realized, oh, this is what these guys do, and they really came out of the gates strong.
Yeah.
I definitely prefer the Quarry to what I've seen of the Dark Pictures anthology, the smaller bite-size games. I think they talk about, if they're talking about not developing their characters enough, or having characters that are uninteresting and wanting to do, and maybe that means they want to do shorter stuff. I don't think they succeeded with the Dark Pictures in creating more affecting characters in a shorter period of time with the Dark Pictures. So, yeah, I think the Quarry length of game is where they're hitting things best, and I like the characters in the Quarry, but I probably still prefer Until Dawn overall as a story.
I think that because I really like the Quarry as well, I think I prefer Until Dawn as well. And something that we were talking about when we finished playing it, because I'm fairly certain that Gus was the most negative on it out of all of us, and I think his issue.
We didn't use bear spray at the right time
because we didn't use bear. But to be fair,
it was the correct time.
It was the correct time, and also he was incredibly drunk. We have to remember, like he got so drunk on that stream and just started really getting angry at us, like a drunk person gets angry at you. Where you're like, oh, this is real now. I think that the thing with the Quarry is that the storytelling is fantastic. I really liked the characters, and I think that it takes time and skill to create something that really does feel like a film. It really does feel like you're watching a movie. It's also the structure of a film, and that potentially is the only part where it falls down a little bit, where you go, the first act is setting up all these characters, and a lot of the time in scary movies, stuff doesn't happen in the first. There's a prelude moment, like an cold open scene, and then you have the first act setting up the characters, and then something goes wrong, and then you've got the rest of your horror movie. But when you're playing a 12-hour game, that first act is 4 hours long. And so that's where you go, oh, it doesn't really feel like a horror game at the moment. I think Until Dawn worked around that by basically changing the structure a little bit and going, we've put a mid-game twist that then recontextualizes everything that you've seen, and now the second part of this story plays out, so the scares were a bit earlier. And that's my one thing I think with the Quarry, is that it was lighter on the scares and the tropey stuff for me. So but I'm totally here for whatever this studio does next. I think that I love games like this. I love the skill that they have making them. They, like I said, they really do feel like films. I would hope, the one thing I would hope is that it's not necessarily supernatural stuff next time. I think that I would like to see something with like maybe a bit more of a big twist, like Until Dawn. I think Until Dawn's twist was really satisfying thing. So yeah, something that's a little more I don't know, like I saw a trailer for, even though it is supernatural, I saw Gus was showing me the trailer for Us, the Jordan Peele movie. I haven't seen Us, but just like the premise of that thing seemed dope, and so something that's a little more like psychological thrillery would be awesome as well. Yeah, but you're obviously very keen on a new one as well.
Yeah, I'm super keen. I really, really liked the Quarry. I played Until Dawn a long time ago, so I don't remember it too much, but I do remember the twist being like, oh my God, like you just didn't see it coming out anywhere. And yeah, I agree that I wish that it had a little bit more of a big twist, but I think it made up for it in the length and the storytelling with the characters. Because I really, really like the the storytelling with the characters, and you get to know them and their backstories, and there's like troubles between two of them, and then these two like each other, these two don't like each other, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that when you play it as well, you can kind of, just because of the nature of the game, you can make these people like each other, or you can not, or I just like that no matter how you play the game, it's different every time.
Yeah. Though I would say one of the struggles of the development of these kinds of games is not you're making a horror game, and the thing that the classic horror trope in film is that people die, characters die.
Yeah.
And your whole objective in these games is to keep people alive. And if you play the game correctly, people do stay alive. So you'll play through 60-70% of the game before there's a death, which is good for character and maybe like takes a bit away from the concept of like this threat. When you're watching a film, the threat is inevitable based on the script, based on what's been shot. But in this, the threat is never fully inevitable until it is, because it's been hard-coded, but you don't know that along the way. You're not just being told a story, you're playing a story, and so everything is a little less scary because you're like, well, I have a way out of this, and then suddenly I don't. But there's always that feeling when you're watching this kind of play out.
I wonder,
kind of undermines it a little bit, but in a game way that is fun. I don't know what the workaround for it is.
I think that's a really interesting point, and I think it's because in both games it feels like they want you to play as all of the characters, whereas in most horror movies you actually have a lead character that you are following, and they have a group of red shirts that they hang out with for most of the game, and you go, okay, Sydney from Scream is going to survive, and most of the other people that are around her are going to die over the course of this thing. And we only cut to those people's perspective in the film when they're going to die.
Yeah.
Like if you're now in a scene where you're not with your main character, that's because this person is about to die. Whereas in these games, you are jumping from scenes to scenes where you're making choices and you're playing as all those characters. So maybe the solve is that they go, actually, in this next one, you're going to play as one or two characters. That maybe they split up, so they go on two divergent paths, and you can have the variety of scenes. But around them are a cast of characters that are really fun and you really get attached to. But you're not necessarily you're not necessarily playing as those people. You're making choices with how you interact with them, but ultimately they are there to be killed off, which is what happens in most horror movies. So yeah.
How would you feel about them adopting? And I'm usually kind of staunchly against this, but existing IP. This engine doing a Scream, or even like a Predator game, or something like, because we've seen like military takes from Supermassive now. Obviously, we get like they're already playing in like fully established mythology, like werewolves, for example, in The Quarry. Could they play with Alien?
Emmy?
That would be interesting, I think. I feel like if they were to do that, it would have to kind of tie in with the movies a bit. I don't know if they would be able to do it separately. Like an example I can think of is the Star Wars game, the Jedi Fallen Order, how that ties in with the movies. I feel like if they're going to do it, I feel like it would have to kind of tie in to the overall universe rather than be separate.
Do you mean like not recreate a story, but they have like if it was Scream, they're not necessarily making Scream the video game, but they're making the Ghostface killer has gone on a new killing adventure.
Yeah. Like the same bad guy, I suppose, or the same supernatural whatever, but it just be a different characters and different story.
Well, something I don't mind the idea of a licensed IP. Yeah, but I think anything done well, I'm kind of happy with. Something that could be cool is that you could, if you ended up playing as the killer, that would solve a lot of this. Where you go, okay, now I'm making decisions on who I kill, how I kill them, and you are basically
get found out.
Yeah, and you're setting up these scenarios. So like almost a version, a great version of this that I just thought of, I'm a genius, is it's a co-op game where one person plays as the kids and one person plays as the killer. And it's still all the same narrative sort of stuff here, but basically one person is making all these decisions to try to survive, and then the killer is making all these decisions to try to kill off as many people as possible. And there could be a really interesting dynamic there where you get, like it's like...
You're talking about Dread Hunger.
I'm talking about Dread Hunger. I'm talking about, any of these sort of like Dead by Daylight, all this sort of stuff, but as a narrative experience could potentially be really interesting and solve that problem of being like, actually, I want to get to gory kills. I want to see weird shit happen. I want to make sure as many people die in this as possible, because keeping people alive is satisfying, but ultimately from a storytelling and drama perspective, a little boring. So yeah, maybe that's an option as well.
Competitive narrative games.
Yes. I like that. Everything needs a competitive aspect. Nothing can purely just be taken for enjoyment. Everything must have a hidden MMR. Cool. Well, thankfully we don't need to wait as long. Like you said, 2025 to 2026 is when they think the game will be dropping. So we'll find out then, and we'll get you back on the show, and we'll go, hey, Supermassive actually end up owing us a bunch of money because they stole all the ideas we talked about here, and they made it their own.
A
Peter,
competitive story game.
Exactly. Yeah. If anyone makes that, we're splitting that up. We're splitting that 3 ways.
Trademark it now.
Peter, what story caught your eye this week?
Sony PlayStation has acquired Savage Game Studios, which are a German mobile game developer. So the studio will be responsible for developing innovative on-the-go experiences based on existing PlayStation IP and also new IP, and the studio will run independently for PlayStation's console and PC studios. So the Sony Studios mobile division is kind of the new independent wing of Sony PlayStation. And it looks like they're making a reasonable push into the handheld space. It doesn't bode well for the Vita 3 or whatever, the new Sony handheld, but it does mean that we'll see some of our favorite Sony IP on mobile handsets. I'm kind of for it. Well, I mean, what's there to be against, really? Except, like, I could imagine people being stop trying to make God of War work on mobile and just put the resources into God of War 3.
You could be one of those people that thinks that the money that is going into a mobile game would have been spent on more paws on Kratos on a PlayStation 5.
But I the positive thing for me is that I'm not really a big mobile gamer. Most of that is because I look at things and I see, instead of Forza or Gran Turismo, I see Asphalt. And I like, it kind of feels like the B spin-off market, even to this day, to me, even though I know Netflix are now there in a big way. And there are kind of like premium mobile games for sure. To me, I'd love to jump onto the store and see something with the love and money that Sony can put behind something on the mobile.
Emily, would you want to see the love and money put behind new IP, or would you want to be seeing Sony classics or Sony franchises, I suppose, like Horizon and that sort of thing, as mobile versions of games?
I don't know. I feel like having games like Spider-Man and Horizon and Last of Us on a phone, I feel just something about that just doesn't sit right with me, just it being on a phone. I think I'd probably prefer original IPs, because I think they could do something really cool with it and make it, specifically for mobile.
What if
that would be a lot better?
Because we're going to see a Horizon VR game pretty soon. Would you want to be seeing a Horizon mobile game, not just necessarily a port of the main games, but something designed in the Horizon world? Or would you go like, actually, I think that I'd rather see something like what Netflix is doing, where they're producing original games or they're at least publishing original games for phones?
Well, I love Horizon, so I would be biased and buy it anyway. But I'd still probably prefer like the Netflix route, how it's like original games and stuff like that.
Yeah, I definitely want to see a mix. Like, I think, why get into the space just to make a Spider-Man swinging game
Yeah.
and not really, and why buy Savage Game Studios and not let them kind of flex their skills in being creative rather than being kind of pigeonholed as a studio to basically make mobile working versions of existing concepts. So
Yeah,
I'd like
totally.
to see both for sure.
Yeah. I like this. I think that the mobile space is rapidly becoming different because of streaming as well. I think that you're looking at cloud streaming and stuff, even though it's not entirely there. I do some Xbox cloud streaming, cloud gaming. What's it called? Whatever. The Xbox
It is
cloud.
called xCloud, yeah.
xCloud.
I believe so.
I do some of that at home, just going, okay, well, I'm going to sit on the couch and play something. And it works pretty well. It's still not entirely there, and I don't have the greatest internet. But when it does get there, I think people will look at their phones differently. I think that there's a whole generation below us that is just using phones as the primary interface for everything. So having more meaningful experiences on it is great. Also, as someone who, my son is just now getting into playing games on the iPad, and over the weekend, he saw some games that his cousins were playing on their iPads. So he was like, "Can I get those?" And I was like, "Okay, we'll download them." One of them, literally, it's like, anyway, it doesn't matter what the fuck the game was, but it was dumb. And 20 seconds into the game, he like fails. It then plays a 45-second, completely unskippable commercial that, if you tap anywhere on the screen, takes you to the App Store with a big button to just click and download. And I was just like, this is awful. I don't want my kid, A, just watching commercials all the time, and B, downloading a bunch of shit or complaining because the parental locks are on. So I suddenly remembered, I was like, oh, what am I going to do? And then I remembered that I've got Apple Arcade. So I went to Apple Arcade and found some games on there where I'm like, these are great games that you can play that will have no microtransactions, blah, blah, blah. And I think that and I kind of went, oh, it would be awesome if on here was a Ratchet and Clank or something. Like if there was kids games, because kids just play shit on the iPad all the time. If there were kids games that are really good and that like transition them to consoles as well, then that's also totally a really clear pipeline of how to get people into your platform via like when they're younger as well. And I think that Sony have a great stable of really good kid-friendly IP. Like you put a Sackboy game on the phone, and then that's an easy walk to the Sackboy game on the PS5, and then you're a PlayStation gamer for life. So, yeah, I'm totally for this. I think it would be great. Plus, all
the Death Stranding mobile game just a skin for your email app?
I was going to say I've already got it, and it's the Ozpost app, but we were both just making the same joke. We were just making the same joke. Good. And then my story this week is one that broke last week, but we're going to get more information about this week, and that is that Assassin's Creed Mirage has been officially announced. It originally was leaked, and there was a deleted tweet from a Assassin's Creed fan website called the Codex Network that shared artwork of Assassin's Creed Mirage, and then Ubisoft issued a bunch of DMCAs and got it taken down, even though it seems like the leak was actually from an Ubisoft Uplay or Ubisoft Connect account or something. Like the leak came from Ubisoft, and then they're like, no, you can't show any of this, but whatever. So then Ubisoft came out and confirmed that this is the next game in the series, and apparently we would be learning more about it this week. This is the image that they then released of an assassin jumping through the air. He's wielding like a little bladey thing like he always does. The initial version of it was at the back of the assassin, and it said the 40 Thieves quest underneath, which implied that maybe that it was linked to some sort of DLC. But the assassin in this one appears to be Basim, who is a character from Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And that was a rumor going around before that it would be the same character there. But the thing, Emily, that makes me the most excited about this, because I don't generally get excited about new Assassin's Creed games because I don't have 150 hours to just dedicate to them, is that according to rumors, this will be smaller in scope, and it will be one city dedicated and more about dedicated stealth sections rather than just this massive open world that you're going through. how do you feel about an Assassin's Creed game that is more condensed and perhaps more focused, or would you feel like you're missing out on the just like enormous amount of content that generally we see in these games?
I think I would probably prefer a smaller game because I've never played any of the Assassin's Creed games, and I think it is because I know.
How? I'm not.
It's like 500 of them.
It's not a judgment. It's just like I don't know how you are a person who hasn't played one. I just don't know how that doesn't accidentally happen at some point.
I am surrounded by people that have played them, but I just never have. I don't know.
Incredible.
They've just been off my radar.
I wish to live your life. Custard tarts and no Assassin's Creed games? Jesus Christ.
Because I know they kind of... I don't really like the structure on how they come out, because don't they come out with one like every year?
Yes.
That's never...
that was definitely the fatigue was in around kind of just before Origins came out.
It was before they did the reboot to the open world RPG style, and they were
just had such a fast cadence, and they were, even at that point, getting up to 30, 40-hour games, so...
Yeah,
it was too much.
Because that's my thing with COD and then like Assassin's Creed, like a new one every year. I feel like we just didn't get to play the other one, but yeah, I've never played them.
Yep.
But I think this one would be a lot more easier to jump into because it's smaller, and I feel like it's a lot more user friendly for someone that maybe hasn't played a game like this before. Or
Totally. They're looking. Apparently they're looking to recreate the sort of crowds that we saw in Assassin's Creed Unity, which Pete, you'll remember, was the one during the French Revolution and had some real disasters when it came to how that thing ran. But obviously, technology now is way better. I know that you're not. How do you feel about Assassin's Creed again?
I love Assassin's Creed, but I played everyone up until that fatigue point. And I then didn't bother playing. I played like maybe 5 hours of Origins, 2 hours of the Odyssey, and 5 hours of Valhalla. And
I'm about the same with that. Yeah,
I can't have the energy to put into those games that are so massive. And to me, Assassin's Creed is about climbing buildings. And
totally.
Valhalla lost that entirely. And
Origins did as well. Like it was all about running around Egypt and stuff where you go.
Yeah. And Odyssey had a lot of climbing, but it's just so big and open that it just didn't have that feel, that running across the rooftops, and that was the thing that was the exciting thing about Assassin's Creed. So to me, I'm really, really keen for everything that's being described here. Like, and even just being back in city with a giant building that I can climb that dome, like all I want to do is run around on the rooftops back there. So
100%. And I think that the game transitions slightly from being a game about assassinations to a game about just being a superhero where you kill as many people as possible. And this one, apparently there's going to be some more leaks came out that there will be 4 main zones in the city, and each one will have a main boss that you're going after. There's going to be lots of stealth, hiding places on roofs, slow motion assassinations. It sounds like it's going more for the going back to like sneaking around, as opposed to like new Assassin's Creed, very much like you, of course you could hide and you could sneak, but it was really like jump into the middle of the thing. You've got enough of an ability tree to be able to like do all of this stuff to everybody, call in other assassins and shit to come and help. And it just became a brawl, as opposed to like, I am so much more into the idea of this game if I am creeping around and taking out some guards to sneak into a room and blah, 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 rather than just like walking up and going, yo, boys, I'm here, snicked, and then just like take everybody out. This sounds really cool.
It's just it's the core identity of Assassin's Creed that's been like chiseled away over the last 3 releases.
Totally.
So bring it back. And then it's an interesting, different game, as opposed to just like an arcadey version of any other action RPG.
Yeah.
It's like this is about stealth.
Absolutely. And it's going to be interesting to see, Emily, have you heard of Assassin's Creed Infinity? What's happening with the future of the Assassin's Creed?
No, I haven't.
So they're basically creating like a live service version of Assassin's Creed where it feels like it will be the hub for Assassin's Creed going forward, where they'll just bolt on new expansions, and that will be, instead of releasing new standalone games, you're just going to release a new I don't want to bore you with words like the Animus, but they're going to release these sort of new things that bolt on. But I do hope that stuff like this, if this is shaping up the way that it sounds, is different than the way that Assassin's Creed has been heading. I hope that they still, if this is successful, release stuff like this where it's more stealthy and a little more about that assassin identity. So very exciting about this. And apparently we'll learn more about it this week. Someone in chat as well said, when is this coming out? We don't have info on this. We'll find out this week when they announce, but they generally don't talk about new Assassin's Creed games until they're pretty close to being put out, because well, I mean, that was also before, because they came out on a yearly basis and you knew they were coming, but they're not like revealing this and going, we're going dark for 4 years. It's like, this thing's coming out in the next 6 months, I reckon. So exciting.
Might be a Christmas time release.
Look, if you put it out this year, I'm here to play a shorter Assassin's Creed game over Christmas. I am absolutely ready for that.
Yeah.
Some things we won't be playing over Christmas. Sons of the Forest got delayed. They felt like they needed more time. It was the polish thing. We need time to polish, so they've pushed Sons of the Forest back to February 23rd, 2023. And Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. Emily, say it with me. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk or what?
Peter, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk.
Bomb Rush Cyberpunk, the indie spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio, has also been delayed until summer 2023. And that was the increase the quality thing, which is basically just a reword of the we need time to polish. That one looks cool. Jet Set Radio is fun. Bomb Rush Cyberpunk is just a fun sentence to say when you can get it out of your mouth. And so we'll need to wait a little longer to be able to say that on the reg. All right, that's literally all the video games news that happened this week.